just entering the room is the lovely Tamika Coverdale. And let me give you a round of applause there. There you go. So you have a monitor in front of you to sign in. You can do your social media. You can talk to people on Facebook or whatever you want to do. And make sure you just pull the mic to your mouth so people can hear you clearly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You all right? Okay. Try now.
Hello?
There you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So, the two candidates running for Mount Vernon City Court Judge. Tell everybody who you are, why you're running, and why we should vote for you.
Yes, my name is Tamika Coverdale. That's who I am. I'm running for Mount Vernon City Court Judge, Row 6A. I am running because I am the best candidate for the position. I've been practicing for over 16 years, representing individuals in our community. And when I say the community, I mean the least of us. And that's extremely important. For the last 16 years, I've attempted to reach our young people early, from grade school to high school, so that they do not become a part of our criminal justice system. And when you reach them early, then they won't become a part of the system. But when they have become a part of the system, I've been that one individual out of many who has attempted to ensure that they are not straddled with felony convictions. That's extremely important. And I know Brother Damon here understands and knows that if a child is struck with that felony conviction, it's difficult for them to go on in school, college, as well as getting a job. So I'm running because of the experience that I have. I have the experience in helping those in our community, but more so than that, every type of law that is practiced in Mount Vernon City Court, that's what I've done. I have over 7,500 cases under my belt. So my experience makes me a formidable candidate. Yes, thank you.
Questions?
Well, I just want to be fair, and so since I asked the question to Judge Nichelle Johnson, I would also like to ask the question to Ms. Coverdale, and that is, do you feel that elected officials are held or should be held to a higher standard? If yes, why? And if no, why not, to the laws of the land, to abide by the laws of the land?
Well, I think those of us who are running for judicial positions, yes, we should be held to those standards. We are to uphold the law. That's what a judge is to do, to follow the law. I know at times you have some judges who want to recreate the law, but as the law is, you are to follow the law. So, yes, we have to uphold it, and we are to be held to that standard, that high standard. I hope I answered your question.
Well, it was actually, do you think that you should be held to a higher standard, elected officials, not the you, specific you, but elected officials, should they be held to a higher standard?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Damon K. Jones.
What is your definition of justice?
Good question.
That's a great question. I don't have much time to think on it, but to me, you said justice, correct?
Justice.
Justice is, it doesn't mean that an individual who, for example, is charged with a crime is always going to be found not guilty or be found guilty. But given the facts that are presented to the body, meaning the judge or the jury, those facts come out, and hopefully once the fact-finding body listens to that, then they will make the decision whether or not that person is guilty or not guilty. Justice is not always fair. It's just not always fair. I see that every day. So someone can actually, and I'll just put it out there, be not guilty of something, and a jury or a fact-finding body, a judge, come back believing that that individual is guilty. But that it doesn't end there, because that individual who's charged with that crime can always go to a higher body. And that oftentimes what happens is once that case is heard on appeal, that's when the final justice is handed out. And that individual may get their just due, their day in court. I hope I answered your question. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I think you kind of answered the question, but why do you want to be judge? You know, you've been a lawyer for a long time.
Yes.
What is it that makes you want to be the next Mount Vernon City Court judge?
I want to be the next judge because I think it's time that our community have someone on the bench who actually understands the community, not just has compassion, because compassion is extremely important, but I'm the candidate who's actually been out there in the trenches daily representing those in the community. That type of individual, that type of attorney makes the better judge, because you've actually interacted with people on a daily basis, day in, day out. So you know and you understand their cares and their concerns. And that's what I've been doing for over 16 years. Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to get some participation from the room here. Anybody
Well,
else?
well, you can take this opportunity. You can do it at the end, but then it's good that people continuously know. Give your website information,
Yeah, because
your role, give all that identifying information.
there's not a
how
lot
people
of
can
questions
find
we
out.
can ask.
Right, to see the-
Right.
and see that's what limits. Yeah.
It's
so
just really qualifications, and I appreciate that. And I'll speak on my qualifications right now a
Okay.
little more. Because I have been practicing for over 16 years, I've handled all types of cases, from landlord-tenant, civil cases, violation of city ordinances, but I've also handled murder cases, serial murder cases. And when I say I've handled those, I just haven't said, okay, I'm going to stand up, but I've tried those type of cases from the arraignment stage to the trial stage. And it's important that when a judge sits on the bench, they know the type of cases that are going to come before them and that they've handled those type of cases. And they can handle that as a judge from day one at the arraignment level. Now, I've handled from arraignment to felony hearing, and what that means is the initial stages of the case, because all of our local courts, meaning Yonkers, Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, they handle cases, criminal cases, at the initial level. But if the case is going to be held to a higher standard, then it goes to another court, and I've gone to that next level. I've tried cases throughout our county and our Supreme Court, and that's extremely important. But what I also want to point out, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of myself, but
This is your show. This is your time. Tell us everything that
Thank
you
you.
want us to know, the community.
I want the community to
is
know
about
that
you.
3 groups that are important to me are our elders, our youth, and our veterans. Our veterans are extremely important because oftentimes once they have served our country, they come home and there's no understanding. There is no compassion for them, meaning oftentimes they may get into some trouble, but it's been my experience, my personal experience doing defense work, that when they do find themselves caught up in the system, it's for petty offenses. It's not for the more serious offenses. So I would like to work to implement a veterans court. And what that type of court is a diversion court of sorts. And diversion courts, you assist individuals who have, for example, mental health issues, PTSD, like some or many of our veterans do. You get them the help that they so need. And by help, I mean the mental health professionals, you have social workers, and once they complete that program, that petty offense is thrown out. And they are starting fresh and anew. And this is not recreating the wheel, because we already have that in our drug courts, and we already have that in our mental health courts. And I believe that our veterans are so deserving of that. Yes.
Okay. So I don't know. I'm trying to find questions that you
No,
can
but that's
answer.
okay. While you find that,
Let me-
once again, don't forget, let the community know how your website, how they can get more information
Right.
on you. Give
Well,
that information.
actually, they can
and
get in
your role.
contact. They can get in contact with me through Facebook. Is really the best way to get in contact with me. You can either get in contact with me through my personal website, or you can get in contact with me through Vote Tamika Coverdale on Facebook as well. Yes. But it's row 6A. That is extremely important. Row 6A on Tuesday, September the 13th.
So let me ask you. Let's see if this is a question you can answer. How, if elected, how are you going to use the justice system to help build a better Mount Vernon?
Okay. I think I stated previously, judges are to uphold the law. But I think it's important that when you have an individual sitting on the bench, that individual understand the community that comes before him or her. That does not always mean that you are always going to rule in those who come before you their favor. It just doesn't work that way. But you have to understand them, you have to listen to them, and you must respect them. I see that lacking at times in our court systems. And once an individual, you always want to give an individual their day in court. And I often find that litigants feel they're not given their day in court, that the judge is not listening to what they have to say, that they're only listening to one side. They're listening to the police, for example, or they're only listening to the petitioner. A judge must listen to all matters, and once that is done, a decision can be made, and that must be fair and impartial. Yes.
Okay. Couple of quick shout outs. We got Kenneth Chamberlain on the line, and we have the cupcake cutie Montika Jones on the line tuning in. So I just want to give them a quick shout out.
Hello.
Because Ms. Coverdale was not here, and I have read on her Facebook post about her lawn signs being missing. So although I've said it earlier, I want to just repeat it again, and that is that the political season, people are not exempt from the golden rule of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So people out here in your camp, in people's camp, stop taking other people's signs. Stop taking other people's literature. Stop damaging other people's property. Remember, when we're talking about the youth again, they're watching you. They're part of your campaign camp, and they're watching you. They're watching what you're doing. They're listening to what you're saying. Let's model the behavior that we want our youth to have. And most importantly, it's not even about our youth. It's about us as individuals. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I just wanted to state that while you're here, because I did read that you said that your lawn signs were coming up missing.
I appreciate that.
So
that's kind of a shame. It's like, yo, it's the campaigning in Mount Vernon is getting worse each year, each election. Thankfully, this is not as nasty as the last one was with the mayor race. But it's just like once you hit a certain level, it's like it never goes. It can only get worse. Like it's not. You know what I'm saying? The next year, I hate to see what the city council election is going to be next year. I'm not even looking forward to that. And much less the next mayor race. I don't even want. There's people, and I've met good people who I think would be really great at City Hall, who have said, AJ, I got a family. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to know if I want to put my family through that, or, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I got kids and, little kids in school. I don't know if I want to put them through that. You know what I'm saying? But I think that they would serve well in the city council or something like that. They will not run in this election next year because of how nasty last year's election was.
It can be,
you know what I'm saying?
Like you said, politics can be nasty, but as Ms.
it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. But even though I mentioned that lawn signs had been taken down, what you do is you continue going forward. You continue knocking on those doors, reaching the people where they are, and not allowing the fact that a lawn sign has been taken down or a poster to deter you from what you have to do.
Okay.
That is help the people in our city.
Okay, I'm actually now I'm scrolling through your bio and your resume.
Okay.
Now. So, member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority incorporated,
yes.
And that's big when you got to mention the sorority thing because that seemed to be a really big thing, especially in Mount Vernon. And I'm trying to look. So let me just what haven't I asked you that you want people to know?
Well,
so, we got 2 days left.
Right.
There's still people that are undecided. This is your forum. This is your chance to
This is my forum. I like people to understand that I am from the community. I was born in Yonkers, raised in Yonkers and Mount Vernon, raised by a single mom. And that's important because my mother always instilled in me that education is the most important thing that you can have. Meaning many things can be taken away from you during your lifetime. But if you have that education, that firm education, that can never be taken away from you. So I attended Howard University, the Mecca in Washington, D.C. And Howard always taught us that we could succeed in any environment. So it made sure that we were prepared to go on to higher levels. And then once that occurred, once I graduated from Howard, I went to the University of Maine. That's two polar opposites. But I was able to go up to Maine and do what I had to do because of the foundation that my mother instilled in me and that Howard University instilled in me. And I like people to understand that I have gone into our schools and I've worked with our youth, mentoring. I think it's important that those who want to go to certain levels have actually served the community. And I've done that. I've done that by mentoring at Graham, mentoring at Rebecca Turner, mentoring at, what is the other one? The high school as well as Mount Vernon High School as well as
We were on the career day together.
Yes, we were actually on the career day together. No. I know we have like 3 high schools, so I'm just making sure that I point that out. But I love doing that. It's not a chore. And as I said, we can't wait until our children are 15, 16, or 17 to reach them. We have to reach them when they are in grade school, because once you do that, it's so much easier. It's so much easier for them to further what they want to do in life, as well as job shadowing. I don't mean to cut you off, AD, but I think it's important that we bring our youth into our professions so that they see what we all do. And I do that. I like to bring them to court so that they see, okay, this is what a court officer does. This is what a judge does. This is what a prosecutor, a defense attorney does. So they see the inner workings totally, and they may want to do that in life. So that's important.
Now, I know a lot of people feel like there should be a division between church and state. I see you're a member of Grace Baptist Church.
Yes, I am.
How, if any, I don't know if this question you can answer, will your faith help you in how you on the bench?
Okay. I think when an individual is on their bench, I think people would not be telling the truth if they come in and say, oh, well, my belief in God doesn't play a role in, one, how I interact with those who come before me, and the respect that you give them. That's extremely important. And I think many of us receive that from our faith, that we are to respect individuals. But as a judge, your job is to uphold the law.
Right.
That's what it is, upholding the law. And I oftentimes find, I've been practicing for 16 years. I've seen judges who bring their faith into the courtroom when they're making decisions. And to me, you are to follow the law. That faith that you have, it can cloud your judgment, and you are not oftentimes fair to that person who comes before you because of your faith. And like I said, the law is what you are to uphold in court.
Good answer.
I just want to, since Ms. Coverdale mentioned her mother, and I just kind of want to, shout out about your mother, and you talk about education, going back and getting her degree.
Oh.
So, it's your show. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, I just, I admire that, and other people would admire that.
Thank you for remembering
and it speaks,
that.
says something about you.
Thank you for remembering that. I'll go back a little further than that. I'm proud of my family history, as I call it. My family's been in the United States since the 1600s. I bring that up because I think it's important that our youth understand their history and knows what has gone on. And my grandmother was a domestic, and she instilled education in all of her children. And my mother was the first of her brothers and sisters to go to desegregated schools. So all of what my mother went through, she taught me all about that. And then she eventually came to New York, and I was born, right? And she did it by herself. And I give my mother credit every day for what she did, because she put her education on hold to an extent because I arrived. So my mother went back and completed her degree at Concordia, and I'm her biggest fan. And she will eventually be going to law school. So to me, that's just so wonderful. And I give my mother big ups all the time for that. So thank you, Ms. Crump.
If Mom can get an applause.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. So I see your professional association, New York State Bar Association, New York State Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, board member of Westchester Legal Aid Society. What is the board member of the 18B screening panel? What's that?
What that is in our county, the Westchester Legal Aid Society accepts or is given assignments of felonies, only felonies. So when there is a conflict, meaning whether there is a co-defendant or the Legal Aid Society has a conflict with an individual who's charged with a crime, then other attorneys will take those cases. So I'm a board member. I determine if someone has the qualifications to actually sit on that board, on that panel, rather, to receive assignments. But I've also lectured on criminal law as being a panel member as well.
Okay. Damon?
No, she's doing great.
Because usually he got like a lot of, he be like grilling people, he's like quiet. I'm
She's doing
The
great.
judges, it just makes it.
It's a little more difficult.
Yeah, it's kind of
It's a little-
hard.
We
It's
don't
a
want to
little
put
more
you in a
difficult.
bad position.
Right.
So it just makes it a little bit more challenging. There are like questions we have, but questions we know we not that we can't ask you, because can is the ability we should not be asking you.
Well,
So,
one of the
put you in
things,
a position.
and talking, sorry to cut you off, one of the things, I've listened to a lot of people. I just listened to what they had to say about certain candidates, why they like them, You know, some people are like, oh, that's my girl. I'm like, okay, that's a reason to elect them. You know, but one of the things I've heard about you from several people, some that we both know, is that like they were in situations and legal situations, and they needed a really good lawyer, and they really didn't have money to pay, and you went in there and you were that bulldog for them, even though it wasn't even a situation where they could pay. You know what I'm saying? But it was like you went there like they was paying top dollar, and I've heard that from several people about you. That's one of the things that I've heard that's been a common theme about you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that the people that you have spoken to think of me in that manner. Maybe I'm one of the few attorneys who actually believes that money should not determine whether or not you will be represented, you know, to the fullest extent. Money should not make that determination. And I guess I have that idea just based on how I was raised. You know, Justice Thurgood Marshall has always been my idol. And that's why I wanted to go to law school, to kind of be like him and Justice Constant Baker Motley. They worked for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. So they heard arguments, and they actually argued cases dealing with segregation. So I always thought to myself, money is not going to determine whether or not the people that I represent receive the best. And I just pride myself on that, you know, being called a pit bull or whatever, you know, I'm called. I take that as a compliment. I really take that as a compliment. I honestly feel that if you're not representing clients to that extent, then you need to do something else. And I think that is going to assist me on the bench because I'm able to see things from every side. And that's the type of judge that is needed on our bench.
And that does get to the next question. I was going to say, how do you think, now, it's kind of like being on the bench is the opposite of that. You know what I'm saying? You had to go all out for a person. Now you're sitting on the other person, and you got to listen to the arguments now. Right. So how does that, you know, how does what you've done, you know, transform into, you know, where you want to go?
I think that what I have done and what I am doing, that makes the best type of judge, because you've heard all types of arguments. You've heard arguments from the prosecutor, you know, with those who are being accused of crimes, or, you know, those who aren't paying their rent, or those landlords who want the rent from the tenant. You know the arguments that are going to be made. As such, that makes you the more formidable person, because you can sit up there and you're able to weigh things and say, you know what, this is really what has occurred, and make your decision. I just think being the type of lawyer that I have been, I'm able to hear things on all sides and make a fair decision.
And we have a Facebook question. What has been your greatest accomplishment in your legal career and in your personal life? I think that's one of the questions you could probably answer, right? Doesn't interfere with being a judge. It's a Facebook question.
It's a Facebook question. You know, one of the greatest accomplishments during my legal career, I love trying cases, because oftentimes, like I said, I represent the least of us. And I heard earlier, I think there was an issue dealing with, I don't know if it had to do with child abuse or it had to deal with discipline. Oftentimes, individuals are arrested just for disciplining their children. They're arrested because it is called abuse. And I've had to argue that they are disciplining, because under the law, you can discipline. So the greatest accomplishment has been when I go to court and I try a case and my client is actually found not guilty. When I hear those words, not guilty for my clients, the least of us. So that's always been my best accomplishment. What was the other?
In your personal life. That was in your legal career, but then in your personal life.
My greatest accomplishment in my personal life has been being a survivor of breast cancer. So,
okay. Round of applause.
No, I didn't.
The question came from Facebook.
So in
your
my
answer in the
personal,
community.
yes, being a survivor of breast cancer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shout out to Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., the Westchester Coalition for Police Reform, for
Kenneth
those questions.
About like 90 questions.
Yeah, that was about yeah.
But one of his questions is, what do you perceive in the greatest obstacles to justice, if any?
I believe. Okay.
Good question.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I believe that one of the greatest obstacles to justice, and I'll just throw it out there, people are arrested day in, day out. They're arrested whether they're arrested correctly or incorrectly. I believe that our jury system, there's an issue with that. And I've seen that on a daily basis picking juries. And I believe that our citizens, and that includes our citizens in Mount Vernon, don't take their roles seriously as being jurors. And oftentimes when they don't take their roles seriously as being jurors, then there is no justice. And when potential jurors, say, oh, I don't want to serve because I just don't like the police. Oftentimes they say that just so that they won't sit on the jury. But then what happens is that individual charged or the prosecutor is not giving a fair shot. And that individual is not given an opportunity for their jury to be made up of a jury of their peers. So I honestly feel that our jury system, the process, the people who serve, are our biggest obstacle. I hope I answered your question.
If I may, you talked about one of your greatest accomplishments with parents who the courts sometimes perceive that they have abused their children when they're exercising their form of discipline in the home. Mm-hmm. And I know that from my experience of working in foster care and adoption, working with child protective services, mandated preventive services, and the family courts, could you expound upon the law in reference to corporal punishment and the use of it?
Okay. Under the law, a parent or a guardian or someone whose care a child is in, more so a parent or a guardian, is able to discipline their child. But when that parent is initially arrested, no one is thoroughly going through the penal law. It's, okay, well, this child has a bruise. And police officers, it's just been my experience that police officers are going to arrest. They're not going to ask many questions because they have to arrest someone who allegedly abused their child. And then what happens is it's up to that accused attorney to argue the best that I was disciplining my child. And at times that's a difficult argument to make if a child has broken bones, for example. That's a difficult argument to make. But attorneys are able to make arguments when a parent has actually said, you know what, you haven't done your homework, you aren't listening to me, you're bad, mouthing me, and they actually just tap the child. Then it's easier for that parent to make that argument in court. And I've just had that experience of having to make both arguments, and it's difficult when a child is badly bruised. And oftentimes, what has happened in the past, children have come into the system badly bruised. So now police officers are not really asking questions. They're like, well, what I see is what I see, and I'm going to arrest you, and you fight this out at a later time. And then you also have some judges who they see those type of cases and they're not fair. And in that situation, those judges should recuse themselves and be for real and say, I can't handle a case where I believe that a child has been abused. Now, as a judge, you're not to make that determination. That's for a jury, or if it's at trial and the individual determined I'm going to have a trial with the judge, then at that point. But at the arraignment level, when you're setting bail, that's not your role to determine whether or not someone is actually guilty or not. That's not your role at the arraignment level.
I'd like to ask this question because it segue right into a question that's posted on Facebook when you mentioned about a judge recusing themselves.
Yes.
So the question on Facebook is, have you ever withdrawn from a case because you disagreed with your client? If so, please explain.
Disagreeing with my client? No, I have not withdrawn disagreeing with my client because of the type of work that I do. If it's being a defense attorney, I think sometimes some people are under that Matlock or Perry Mason belief that you only represent people who theoretically they have not committed any crime. And I just think as a defense attorney, your role is different. Your role is not the prosecutor. You are to stand back, argue on behalf of your client, and make sure that the prosecutor proves their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, if you're in a situation where a client has said one thing to you and then later says something else, as an attorney, you're not supposed to suborn a potential perjury. So in a situation like that, then you are to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we're coming towards the end. I wanted to make sure that anything we did not ask you that you would like to get out there, and again, social media, where you are on the line, on the ballot, website. We'll
Yes.
put that back out there.
Yes,
for
I
everybody.
am Rose 6A, and I'll put this out there again. I ran last September. I'm running again. There was a 40-vote separation between myself and the person who actually won the election. It was a great fight. We fought that out to the end. So I'm running again. I am the best candidate for the position, 6A, 6A, 6A. I'm the candidate who has worked with our youth, directly with our youth, made that part of my career. I have sat on panels dealing with police community relations, dealing with anti-bullying, dealing with knowing your rights. It's extremely important that the community knows their rights when they are interacting with the police, because oftentimes when you don't know your rights, then you may be prone to allowing the police to just search you, even though you do not have to do that. And I think it's important that the community and the police, so especially here in Mount Vernon, because that's the community that I serve the most, respect each other. And I believe that that is lacking. So my work with our youth, my work with our elders, especially those who are dealing with early onset dementia, is extremely important to me. They have issues dealing with their estates, dealing with their wills. I've helped them in those areas. They have issues dealing with landlord-tenant. So oftentimes they come to court and they don't understand the process. I've been there to assist them, but I've also been there when no one else has been there. As you stated, I've helped individuals in the community who've had no money. And that's important. You want to know that this person who's attempting to get on the bench has actually done good by the community. And I pride myself on doing those good works by the community. So yes, I want them to understand that. I also want to continuously push this Veterans Court. That's extremely, extremely important to me. And one day that court will come to our great city of Mount Vernon.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well,
Just
we
one
do.
question. Since you mentioned the Veterans Court.
Yes.
Are there other cities that have this?
There are cities out on Long Island who have it. We don't have it here in Westchester County, and I believe that our location is just so great, especially the number of veterans that we have in our city. And why I would want it to start in our local court is, like I said, oftentimes our veterans, they are charged with petty offenses. If they go up to county court, that means the charges are more serious. And I've been in county court on those diversion parts, meaning our drug offenses as well as mental health. So I believe that with the local court level, specifically Mount Vernon and that Veterans Court, so much can be done, but the resources have to be there. When you don't have the resources for our veterans, then they're just pushed to the wayside, and enough is enough. More needs to be done for them. I'm seeing that every day walking the community. That's one thing that they say. There's nobody listening to me. So I listen to them, and I do my best to ensure that they receive justice.
Absolutely. Well, again, that's it, David. You got any last questions?
No.
We want to thank you for coming through, for taking the time. Like I said, the reason we did this, we wanted to have a candidate forum. The two candidates, y'all are not allowed to debate, but we wanted to give the voters a chance to, one last look at y'all, and hopefully that today helps people make a more informed decision on Tuesday.
Yes.
So we thank you for your time. Wish you the best.
Thank you, Tamika Coverdale, Row 6A. Thank
right.
you.
And you have a website? No, you said
give it again.
Facebook, right?
Yeah, I'm really on Facebook
Yeah, make
right
sure
now.
give all that again.
What's the
Okay.
website?
Just give it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or the Facebook.
The website is Committee to
Elect.
Elect Tamika A Coverdale.com.
Thank you very much.
I just
You're
pulled
right
it
there.
up. Yeah,
You're
yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I didn't have it in front of me. So I thank you very much.
All right.
And I thank your host for being so kind. Thank you both. All three of you.
We're kind to, at least I am. I can't, guys, at least I'm doing, yeah.
I decline every other week.